Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to get into kind of spinal roll action. We're not going to do the full spinal roll, but I want to work on pelvic, low back, really full spinal, but really focusing on that pelvis and low back mobility. Good spinal health is going to be a combination of good motor control, mobility, with good stability. Motor control is going to be more on that stability side. If I have good mobility and good stability, I'm going to have good outcomes with my spine. If my spine is overly mobile with not enough stability, I'm not going to be mobile for very long. And if I'm too stable and I don't have enough mobility, I'm going to be rigid. I'm actually going to be more, I'm going to be, my body's going to feel a lot more, every load impact. The more rigid a structure is, the more likely that structure is going to have weaknesses and become brittle. So we need a certain amount of mobility to be pliable, to move well. We need a good amount of stability to support that mobility. So spinal rolls, spinal rocks, really important as far as good pelvic to lumbar mobility. We're going to be getting into that low spine. So if you have sensitive back, if you have back pain, then I want you to go really, really slow. Stay cautious. We want to stay under that level 3 on a scale of 0 to 10. And remember, 3 is when we start to make that pirate look and our body starts to tense up. Level 1, level 2, slight discomfort, not triggering into that upper level pain. So let's get into it. So we're going to start with our crocodile breath. Anytime I want to get into some spinal work, I want to make sure that we have good access to breath. So making our nice big C shapes with our hands, thumbs going into that low back musculature, index fingers wrapping around to the abdominal musculature, palms are pressing into that side body space. And this is where I want to imagine that we're breathing like a crocodile, or we're inflating that abdominal wall like we're blowing up a balloon. And every exhale, I want to allow those hands to clench down a little bit so that we have some resistance for that inhale phase of the breath to push out and away. And I want that push to push into the thumbs, into the low back, out through the sides, as well as into the index fingers into the front. So we're going to get a good 5 breaths. You can do 10 breaths. You can do 10 reps. We're going to stick with about 5 reps of everything in this session. But you can add more on your own, especially if you're watching this on a video. So nice, slow inhale in through the nose. Nice, slow exhale out through the mouth. And as we exhale, feel that navel start to draw up and in towards the spine. Again, clench the hands down. That next inhale, pushing out and away. Exhale, drawing that navel up and in. As you get 2 or 3 breaths in, start to notice shoulders. Notice how they want to shrug on the exhale. Allow those shoulders to soften, relax. Don't push them down. Allow them to just release. I want to let that tension drop. Once we get to our 5th breath, we're going to let the hands drop down to the side. We're going to continue into that breath, but now we're going to get into pelvic tilts. On our inhale, as we fill that belly up, pelvis is going to start to tilt forward. This is going to create some sway in the low back. I want to make sure that we're avoiding pinch or pain as we get into this movement. As we exhale, drawing that navel up and in, we're scooping that tailbone forward. Notice how my knees sag just a little bit, and I'm really kind of trying to tuck that tailbone. Inhale, pelvis tilts forward, getting that nice sway in the back. Exhale, scoop. And with each one, without going into pinch or pain, see if you can get a little bit more range in each direction. I'm trying to maximize that mobility through the pelvis and into that lumbar. Scoop into anterior. We're going to go ahead and let the hips now take a rest. We're going to now focus on shoulders. So I'm bringing hands down to the sides, spreading fingers wide, turning the palms up to the ceiling. And I want to turn so that elbow pits face up. I want to feel the shoulder blades pack down and back. Feel that chest kind of lift up tall. We're going to do our same crocodile breath, starting here in this position with a nice inhale. As we inhale, I want to breathe up and see if we can fill up into the chest, upper into the clavicles. As we exhale, we're going to let our shoulders shrug up. We're going to spiral those palms so that the thumbs start to turn down, and we're going to let the hands move in front, and then we're reaching out like we're trying to extend those fingers out in front. I want to start to get nice rounding into the upper back. On the inhale, we're shrugging again as we spiral the palms up. And then as we get set, we're reaching those hands down to the floor, turning those palms up to the ceiling at the same time. I want to feel the shoulder blades sliding down and back. So exhale, shrug, reach forward. Try to get as much of that rounding in the upper back as possible. The more you're able to reach those fingers forward, I want to see if we can feel the shoulder blades spread so that we feel that stretch between the shoulder blades around the spine. Once we get to 5, we're going to come back to our starting point, palms up. And now we're going to combine the two, pelvic tilts with our shoulder rolls. This is kind of getting into a standing cat-cow. So start with that nice inhale, filling up the clavicles. As we exhale, we're shrugging, rounding shoulders as we scoop. Scoop while you reach. Full exhale. Inhale, shrug, spiral palms up. Shoulder blades slide down. I want to exhale as we're reaching. I want to inhale as we're opening up that chest to the ceiling. I'm trying to fill up that clavicle area as I'm actively reaching down and spiraling the palms up. A good slow breath kind of helps us get through that entire movement in each direction. Good. All right. So now we're going to come all the way down to the floor. I got the shoulders loosened up with a little bit with the hips and the low back. Now we're going to get the hips loosened up, and then we're going to get more into our spine. So nice wide V-sit, actively reaching the knees down to the floor, actively pulling the tops of the feet back. Hands are going down on the floor outside of the hips. Rounding palms, spiraling the elbows out and away. Nice inhale in through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. We're focusing on those kneecaps. On our inhale, I want feet and knees straight up to the ceiling. As we exhale, we're turning those kneecaps out and away like you're trying to touch the floor to the outside of the body. Inhale as we come back to center. Exhale as we turn the knees in towards the floor. And with each one, see if you can squeeze just a little bit more range of motion. I want to feel that stretch, that mobility deep in the hip socket. The more active you are with the knees pressing down and the feet pulling back, the more tension you'll put through the leg, and the more we'll feel this deep in that hip socket. Want to get into those deep rotators to start loosening them up a little bit. It's going to help with our pelvic and low back mobility. Once we get to 5, we're now going to shift into our shin box position. So I'm getting into my left side shin box, left knee is forward, left hand is coming down behind the hip. I want to spiral that elbow pit out and away. So I feel the shoulder blade pack down and back, nice tall spine. We're going to start on that knee with that knee opener, with the back knee. Nice exhale as we slowly lift that knee up to the ceiling. Inhale as we bring it back down. As I'm lifting and opening, I don't want to turn my shoulders back. I don't want to roll my body away from that movement. I want to stay nice and solid through my shoulder. I'm only isolating that hip. Squeezing into that end range without going into pain. Inhale as we bring it back to the floor. Once we do 5, we can do a nice slow windshield wiper transition across to the other side. Ground that palm, spiral the elbow, pack the shoulder, nice tall spine. Again, focusing on that back hip. Inhale into our crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel up into the spine as we slowly lift. This hip is tighter today. It's good to notice, how high are you able to lift that knee? How much tighter does it feel in the left hip compared to the right hip? Is one side more than the other? Once we get 5, again, nice slow windshield wiper transition to the other side. Now we're going to get into that back hip bowl. This is where I want to imagine our inhale breath is weight filling up that hip bowl and reaching that hip to the floor. On our exhale, we're lifting that hip up, we're moving it forward, and then we are actively scooping our tailbone into it. If you imagine your sacrum is the palm of a hand, sacrum is that bone that sits in between the hips or the pelvis. If the palm is the sacrum, your fingertips are your tailbone. So I want to exhale and turn and try to reach the tailbone forward. Inhale, fills up, drops to the floor. Exhale, that hip lifts up, moves forward, and then actively scoops into it. Once we do 5 scoops, we're going to add another level to it. As you exhale, actively scoop into it, lock in that back hip. Now we're going to get our rotation. So I want to spread the hand wide, spiral the palm up to the ceiling, extend the elbow, reaching through my front knee. So extending that elbow fully, and then rotating the shoulder, reaching those fingers forward. Inhale, we're unwinding, bringing it all back into that back hip, filling it up. Exhale, it lifts, reaches forward, scoops, palm spread, palm up, elbow extended, and actively rotate, reaching into it. I want to feel that first stretch in the hip. So as we exhale and scoop, I want to feel this lit up. We're scooping into it. We can feel that stretch through the front, active glute. And then as we add our reach with rotation, that stretch is getting drawn up. We feel that tension moving into the low back and even up into the shoulders. Once we get 5, nice slow transition back to the other side. And we're going to do the same thing. Again, grounded palms, packed shoulder, tall spine. Inhale into that back hip bowl. Exhale, that hip lifts, reaches forward, and then actively scoops into it so that we start to feel that stretch through the front. Notice, is it tighter, more restricted on this side or the other side? Do you have more range of motion? Do you feel more stiffness, tightness in the hip itself? Once we get to 5 breaths, we're going to add in our reach. So as you get into that back hip, lock it in, scoop. I want to feel that good tension. Spread the hands wide, turn the palm up to the ceiling, extend that elbow reaching through the knee, and then actively rotate into it. Inhale, unwinds, into that back hip bowl. Exhale, lift, scoop. Again, lock in that hip first. Spread, extend, palm up, and rotate. The more you're able to spread that palm, get tension in the hand, spiral, feel that rotational tension, extend. All that tension builds up so that when we get to that rotation, we're really kind of wringing out the spine. Gets nice fascial stretching all the way throughout. Want to make sure we're not going into pain or pinch or stressful positions. This should all feel good and juicy. We're now going to transition back to the other side. We're going to go into our folds, and we're going to go ahead and go into folds going back and forth. I'm going to use the knee as the arrow today. So I'm going to let that knee be closed for today. Previously, we did knees open. So I want to play with my shin box or my folds specifically in all of these angles of the knee. Today, we're going to have it a little bit more closed. I'm going to use the knee as as my arrow. So I want to move my sternum through that knee. So I want shoulders and hands square on either side of the knee so that as I reach, my sternum is trying to move right through that knee. So as we nice slow exhale on that reach, inhale brings us all the way back up. Exhale as we start our transition, inhale as we finish our transition, exhale as we reach through the other side knee. We're going to go back and forth, nice and slow. So part of the reason I want to develop a nice slow inhale and exhale breath that we can control is it allows us to slow down in our movement. And the slower we're able to go through our movement drills, the more better we're going to be able to sense tension, patterns, areas in which there's a little stickiness. There's a difference between being able to move with flow and then feeling like there's little road bumps that we're hitting up against. I want to feel where my body doesn't move as smoothly. Because if it's not moving smoothly when I'm going slow, I guarantee it's not doing it when you're going fast. When you're going fast, that's where those hiccups are more likely to derail us. Now, as we're going back and forth, we're going to start to open up that shin box angle. Let that back knee start to slide open more. We're continuing to reach through that knee. But that change of that angle for that back leg should give you a little bit more mobility awareness for that back hip. It may also give you a deeper stretch in the front hip. Notice the difference when you go right side compared to left side. Does one side move a little smoother, a little better than the other side does? Again, with each one, we're continuing to open up that back leg a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. We're doing a little bit more reps on this because we are changing our position. So I'm not focusing on 5. This one can be 15 up to 20. This is a really nice back and forth flow to do, especially first thing in the morning, especially if you're feeling tightness in the hips. In the low back. Getting in and doing a good amount of reps on this will really help to prepare the body for the day. I can feel that low back starting to open up a little bit. All right, so now we're going to finish up the hips with one more position, getting into our frog. So in frog, I want knees wide. Feet are going to be closer together. And we're trying to get the knees to go out as wide as we comfortably can. I'm on my palms, extending elbows fully without locking. First thing I want to do is get into our crocodile breath in this position, and we're going to play a little bit with pelvic tilts. So nice inhale into that belly. Allow the pelvis to kind of lightly tilt down towards the floor so that we get a little bit of sway in the back. I want to be gentle here. We're in a deep position. Exhale, we're lightly scooping. This should elicit some nice stretch into those in that deep hip socket area. Once we get a good 5 breaths with tilts, now we're going to start to sit back into our position. So nice inhale as we're forward. Exhale, we're letting those hips sink down between the heels. Inhale brings us back forward. With each one, trying to get into it a little deeper without going into pain. One thing you can think about is if you imagine that you have a tail, and as you're sitting into it, allow that tail to lightly move towards the ceiling, like you're turning your tailbone up instead of scooping it. And the next one, as we get into that deeper range, we're going to come back and do a little bit more of those pelvic tilts. Now, again, we're in a pretty deep range here, so I want to go small. But we're doing our nice inhale, again, letting the pelvis tilt forward. Exhale, scooping into it a little bit. Going back and forth for about 5 nice slow breaths. This should feel good and pleasant and juicy, not stressful or painful. If it is painful, then you are too deep, you're moving too far. You need to back up just a little bit. Once we get 5 breaths, we're going to rock back forward. And now we're going to do some ankle lifts. So I'm lightly lifting one ankle and towards the ceiling, getting that rotation into the hip. Inhale as I bring it back down. Exhale as we lift to the other side. I don't want to force that ankle up. I only want to go as high as I can with control and without speed. I'm not worried about distance. I don't want to force it. I don't want to try to make that foot go higher. But we can pay attention to things like how much range of motion do we have on that left side compared to the right. My right side, I got a good amount of range of motion. I'm looking in my camera, and I can get that foot up pretty high. My left side, it is not quite as high. It's a little tighter, and you can hear it in my voice as well. It's harder for me to get that. My left side is a little stiffer, a little tighter. So my range of motion, my mobility in that left hip is limited compared to the right. All right, we're going to come out of that position. Now we're going to get into our inverted. So now we get to start working more directly into our spinal roll work. Bringing hands to the floor, grounding palms, spiraling elbow pits out and away. I want to feel the shoulder blades sliding down the back of the upper back. Sternum is lifting up nice and tall, nice tall spine. And we're going to play with arm spirals here. We're really going to kind of get into those shoulder rolls similar to what we were doing when we were standing up, except our hands are going to remain grounded. So this is a closed position through the hands. So focusing on the elbow pits. Elbow pits start externally spiraled out and away with packed shoulders. We're going to exhale and turn those elbow pits in. Notice how that changes the position of the shoulder blades. They want to start to round forward. We're going to allow that to happen. Feel that stretch through the upper back. Then on our inhale, we're back to external spiral and then reaching down to the floor. I want to feel that sternum try to lift and the shoulder blades pack down and back. Exhale, elbows spiral forward. Feel that rounding in the upper back. Once we get 5 reps, Then we're gonna come back to nice and tall, and we're gonna do our pelvic tilts from this position. So nice inhale, feel that pelvis tilt even more forward. Let that belly open up. On the exhale, as you draw your navel up and into the spine, we're scooping. See if we can feel that low back. That low back's going to start to round lightly. So it's inhale as we're tall in the shoulder, in the chest. Exhale, navel to spine, scoop. I'm not moving my arms, my shoulders, my elbows are staying kind of stiff, but the shoulders will lightly shrug up. Inhale, nice tall spine. Feel that sternum lift. Exhale, scoops, and you feel it soften a little bit. See if you can feel that mobility and some light stretch into that low back area. And if you're able to get that scoop, get as much of it as you can without going into pain. Once we get 5, now we're going to combine the two. So on inhale, elbows are spiraling out. Exhale, elbows are spiraling in. Shoulders are rounding at the same time that we're scooping the tailbone. So we're trying to get as much rounding through the upper back and low back as possible. Inhale gets us nice and tall. Exhale, nice and rounded. See if you can feel that stretch up into the shoulders, all the way down into the low back. Good. Now we're going to bring our hands off the floor and we're going to bring them to our knees. So we're going to do the same exact movement we just did, but now our hands are going to be off the floor. And we're going to make some circles with our hands around the knees. So as I exhale and scoop my pelvis, I also want to round my palms, my thumbs down. So I'm going to reach my hands on the outside of my leg. Once I get past the knee, I'm turning my hands to the inside of my leg as I'm reaching as far as I can. As I inhale, my hands are sliding up the inside of my knee. Once I pass the knee, they're sliding back to open, palms up to the ceiling. Exhale, reaching through the outside of the knee, spiraling down to the inhale, bringing them back up. So I have this nice little circle action around the knees for the shoulders, and we're going to connect that into our pelvic tilts as well. So as we exhale, drawing that navel up and in, we're reaching, and I want to see how far can I reach let my fingers slide down my shin at the same time that I'm scooping and trying to get as much rounding in the low back. And then on the inhale, I'm inhaling. It's like it's inflating my spine. My spine's getting nice and tall. As I open up the chest, palms open up. I want to feel that nice opening chest. Exhale, reach, round. How far can you get that reach? Inhale, bringing it back. See if you can feel that nice big stretch. Low back all the way up through the upper back on your exhale. On your inhale, as you open up, see if you can feel that opening up through the chest as you lift nice and tall. Good. So now we're going to come all the way down onto our back. I want to start with some hip rotations to get a little bit more movement into the spine. So we're going to bring our arms out to the side, palms up. This is where I want to imagine we're laying in a bed of sand and we're trying to make that nice imprint in the sand by pressing down. I want to feel shoulders, arms, elbows, forearms, back of the palm of the hand, pressing into the floor. We're going to bring our knees up so that our hips are less than 90 degrees and our knees are right around 90 degrees. So I want to be a little tucked so that our low back feels nice and flat to the floor. And then from here, we're just simply going to play with some hip rotations. Keep the legs square. I want to keep them even. On our inhale, filling up that crocodile breath. As we exhale, navel to spine. As we let our hips roll to one side, but we're only going as far as we can without smearing our sand. So start excessively small. I'm more interested in maintaining our shoulder control than pushing the rotation in the hips. And I want good control of my core. So the slower we go with our breath, the better. And with each one, as you show that you have control in the shoulders, you can start to get a little bit further in the rotation as long as you don't start to feel that shoulder lift or smear. Again, I want a perfect imprint in the sand. Nice slow breath, inhale to exhale. The slower you go on this, the better, at least for the sake of what we're working on right now. Notice as you're getting into this, how far are you able to rotate to the left compared to the right? What do you feel in your low back and shoulders? Does one side feel tighter, more restricted, more challenging in general? Do you feel like you can go further on one side and it's easier? And do you go less far and it feels harder? Those are really important assessment points, especially if you're dealing with some kind of pain and injury stuff. All right, now that we got our rotations in, we can let our feet back down to the floor. Going to bring our knees in, and we're going to do a little bit of like just gentle, happy baby work. I'm going to grab the top of the knees. Inhale, I'm letting those knees pull forward, filling up that belly. Exhale, drawing that navel up and in at the same time that I'm pulling the knees in. And as I pull the knees in, I want it to lightly scoop that tailbone. I want to see if we can feel that sacrum kind of getting peeled off the floor so that we get a little bit of stretch into that low back area. Try to keep your head and shoulders on the floor. I don't want head and shoulders lifting up. I want to keep them soft and relaxed. Shoulders should be able to stay connected to the floor. Head should be able to be connected to the floor. If that's a difficult thing to do in this position, then it's okay to have a bolster, a pillow, some blankets to help allow you to rest into that floor, that position on the floor. All right. So now that we got, actually, I want to do a little bit more with that. So I still want to use the hands for the happy baby, but I want to start to use more of our core to pull the hips up. So I want you to imagine that your belly button is really doing most of the work. Inhale, it's getting lifted up to the ceiling, but on the exhale, that belly button is like a thumb that is pushing down into the spine and then pulling that tailbone up towards the ceiling. Try to use your muscles of your lower core more than the hands. The hands are there as an assistance to give you a little bit more range, but most of the work is happening with your core. And as you're starting to feel that, we're going to start to release the hands. We're going to continue that action with the core, and we're going to let our hands come up over our heads, relaxing down to the floor. Again, if shoulders feel stiff, allow those arms to come out to the side a little bit more till they feel rested. I still want this movement to be taking place from that belly button. Watch the knees and the feet. If the knees start to open up and those feet start to reach away, you're probably not using that lower core and you're using more momentum. So I want to keep knees tight, heels in. We're focusing just on that movement from our belly. And as we're getting into this, we're going to see how much can we peel that tailbone off the floor. Can we start to feel from sacrum? Can we start to peel the L5 off the floor? Can we start to peel L5, L4, L3? Can we start to get the entire hips off the floor? Now, if you're starting to feel some tug, some tightness in the low back, I want to stay on the non-painful side of that. If it's a stretch, then I want to play in the juicy nature of the stretch. I'm not concerned about getting more range if you're getting a good juicy stretch. I'm more interested in playing in that stretch, getting the body comfortable with it. So I get a good stretch about right there. It's not intense. It's not a lot. I also feel my core getting a little shakier. It's a little harder to work past that point. So I don't want to go beyond it. I don't have control beyond it. That's kind of where the max of where I have any control at this moment. But as I'm working on it, it's actually opening up a little bit. I got another inch out of that one before I felt that stretch. The more we're able to keep those knees tight, ankles tight, the more we're going to use that low core. Even if we're not going into like a plow, putting those feet on the floor, this is really good core work. We're going to go ahead and let our feet come back down to the floor. And we're going to finish with our crocodile breath, making our nice big C shapes with our hands, thumbs going into that low back musculature, index fingers wrapping around the front. And again, we're going to finish with a good 5, really up to 10 nice slow crocodile breaths. And with each one, I really want to work to expand that wall a little bit bigger so that when we get to our last breath, we're expanding or blowing that balloon up to its maximum potential. And as you get a couple of breaths in, start to notice tension in your shoulders. Not unusual for those shoulders to want to kind of lift up to the ceiling as we inhale. I don't want to push them to the floor. I just want to let them go. I want to let that tension release on the exhale. Inhale, we're literally filling up tension. So I want to fill into tension, and then the exhale, let that tension go. We can allow our hands to drop down to the side, keep the palms up. And then start to let that movement go from just the belly, but also up into the ribs. Same general idea. Expand that balloon in all directions, up through the chest, out through the side of the ribs, and into the upper back. And exhale, letting all that tension just release to the floor. And take the last few breaths to kind of just scan the whole body. Notice if you have tension in your feet or legs, whether it's in the hips or up in the shoulders and the neck. Wherever you're feeling it, breathe into that tension on the inhale, and on the exhale, see if you can let it go. Let it relax. Let it kind of just melt into the floor. You can take your time on this. You can have you can spend a few minutes just getting some nice, soothing, deep breaths. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Take your time coming up to a sit before you stand to make sure that you're not feeling dizzy or lightheaded.